the covert narcissist's secret communication weapon to distort your mind and break your inner peace. Today, I want to tell you about a psychological weapon that covert, or what psychologists more accurately call vulnerable, narcissists quietly rely on. It's subtle, it's quiet, but it has the power to turn your entire emotional world upside down. And to understand how it works, you first have to understand the person who wields it. Online, people call them covert narcissists, but in clinical psychology, the terms used are fragile or vulnerable narcissists. Those words matter because they paint a different picture from the stereotypical narcissist who storms through life, chest out, voice loud, confidence unshakable. The vulnerable narcissist doesn't do that. They crumble, they shake, they fold inward, they show you their cracks, and they do it on purpose. Their fragility isn't a random quirk. It's the backbone of how they manipulate. Psychologists describe these individuals as living on an emotional pendulum that swings wildly from one extreme to the other. One moment they're inflated with self-importance, buzzing with a sense of superiority because someone admired them or gave them attention. Minutes later, the high evaporates, and they plunge into insecurity, emptiness, or despair. Unlike grandiose narcissists, who maintain their confidence by feeding on attention like a steady drip, fragile narcissists constantly lose their supply and collapse. This is why they're moody, why they break down, why they cry. And though those emotional displays may look raw and sincere, therapists explain that they're simply part of the cycle, not proof of empathy or real accountability. And because they don't have the force or intimidation tactics that grandiose narcissists rely on, their manipulation takes a different shape. Grandiose narcissists rule by power. Do what I want or suffer. Give me loyalty and I'll reward you. Everything is loud and obvious. Everything is out in the open. Fragile narcissists are different. They can't storm their way through anything, so they resort to quieter methods. Indirect influence, emotional leaning, guilt, subtle pressure, and strategic displays of weakness. They operate in the shadows. They don't demand. They wilt. They don't threaten. They tremble. And because they seem so small, so breakable, you let your guard down. You find yourself caring for someone who looks like they're on the edge of falling apart. And that's exactly what they need. This leads to their favorite weapon, one psychologists describe as a two-stage psychological ambush. But it only works if you care. It only works if you're invested. It only works if you believe, on some level, that you're responsible for their emotional well-being. And once you lean in, once you start seeing them as someone wounded, misunderstood, or deeply hurt, you step into the emotional trap without realizing it. Their vulnerability becomes your justification. They can't be a narcissist. They're too gentle, too sad, too damaged. But their fragility, psychologists warn, is not a sign of goodness. It's a sign of emotional instability, and instability is one of the most effective manipulation tools there is. The first stage of the weapon is confusion. Because fragile narcissists swing so dramatically between emotional highs and lows, you end up interacting with two completely different versions of them. On good days, when they feel admired or validated, they become almost grandiose, confident, condescending, even cruel. But when that validation dries up, they break down, collapse, and cling to you as though you're their only lifeline. The whiplash leaves you constantly unsure of who you're going to get. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism that keeps people hooked on gambling or unpredictable relationships. Your brain stays stuck in survival mode, trying to anticipate their mood, and the unpredictability binds you tighter than consistency ever could. Once the confusion has softened your defenses, the second stage kicks in. Guilt through pity. This is where they shine. Their stories of suffering appear in technicolor detail. Abandonment, betrayal, trauma, neglect. They share them with shaky voices and tearful eyes, and before you know it, your heart opens. You feel protective. You feel responsible. You feel like you can't walk away from someone who has endured so much. Psychologists emphasize that pity is one of the most powerful and disarming emotional responses a human can feel. When you pity someone you love, your boundaries blur. Your instincts soften. You forgive what you shouldn't forgive. You stay when you should run. The vulnerable narcissist knows this. They study your compassion. They figure out what breaks your heart, what makes you feel guilty, what causes you to give more than you have. Then they use it. Their weakness becomes a performance. Their tears become strategy. Their pain becomes the key to your compliance. This is the terrifying brilliance of the covert narcissist. They switch between dominance and collapse so seamlessly that you lose your sense of reality. One moment, they're criticizing you. The next, they're crying that they're too broken and trying their best. You never know which version is real, and in that confusion, your mind stays tangled. Your emotions stay hooked. Your empathy becomes the very rope that ties you to them. And once that happens, they don't even need to raise their voice. They don't need to threaten you. They just need to look wounded, and the guilt alone will keep you exactly where they want you. After leaving a vulnerable narcissist, most people expect the worst to be over. The chaos is gone, the door is closed, and theoretically, life should return to normal. But as psychologists often point out, that's rarely how it feels. Instead, the aftermath settles in like smoke trapped in a closed room, thick, lingering, and strangely impossible to clear. Many survivors describe this period the same way. My mind wouldn't stop spinning. Even long after the narcissist is out of their life, their thoughts keep looping through two competing narratives. Were they really as broken as they claimed? Or were they using their brokenness as a shield, a lure, a weapon? Were they genuinely fragile? Or were they performing fragility to keep me tied to them? Therapists say this confusion isn't weakness. It's the natural recoil of the mind after being twisted into knots for so long. Cognitive dissonance isn't just mental conflict. It's your entire nervous system trying to make sense of two realities that were never compatible. Psychologists often explain that this inner tug-of-war forms because vulnerable narcissists train you, slowly, subtly, to live in emotional duality. They switch between roles with the precision of an actor. Savior and villain, protector and threat, helpless child and ice-cold dictator. Your body learns to brace for both extremes at once. So even after they're gone, your brain keeps searching for answers, hoping that if you can finally understand them, you'll finally feel peace. But that's the trap. Vulnerable narcissists are not meant to make sense. Their identity shifts depending on how much emotional supply they need in that moment. Trying to decode them is like trying to solve a puzzle designed to have no solution. Another thing psychologists highlight is the presence of introject guilt, a guilt that doesn't feel like a feeling but a duty. After months or years of absorbing their trauma stories, their helplessness, their whispered confessions, and late-night breakdowns, your mind begins to carry a phantom weight. Even long after you've walked away, you may still feel responsible for them, almost as if abandoning them means you failed someone who couldn't survive without you. But this isn't love. It's conditioning. Vulnerable narcissists don't just manipulate admiration the way grandiose ones do. They manipulate empathy. They use your compassion as currency. And when empathy becomes a weapon in someone else's hands, it becomes one of the most disorienting forms of psychological captivity. This is also why closure feels so impossible. Grandiose narcissists are predictable in their cruelty. Eventually, their lack of emotional depth becomes obvious. But vulnerable narcissists blur the lines so convincingly that even after you leave, you may catch yourself wondering, was I too harsh? Did I hurt someone who genuinely needed me? Psychologists warn that this may be the most dangerous leftover effect, the belief that your departure caused them emotional pain in a normal human sense. The reality is far more complicated. Vulnerable narcissists experience abandonment not as heartbreak, but as narcissistic injury. Your absence doesn't wound their heart, it wounds their ego. Their suffering isn't the grief of losing love, it's the panic of losing control. Healing requires a shift that many survivors struggle with, accepting that the two versions of the narcissist were never actually separate people. The wounded child and the cold manipulator weren't dual personalities. They were tactics, masks, tools for maintaining supply. Therapists call this part of recovery integration, the moment when you stop swinging between empathy and anger, hope and doubt. Integration is when you finally acknowledge that the cruel version was who they really were, and the fragile version was the bait that kept you hooked. And this is exactly why no contact becomes such a powerful form of healing. It is more than a boundary, it's a neurological detox. Every phone call, every relapse into conversation, every accidental glance at their social media reactivates the old pathways of guilt, pity, and confusion. Psychology research shows that intermittent reinforcement, the unpredictable cycle of affection and cruelty, is one of the strongest forms of conditioning known to humans. Breaking that bond takes time, distance, and clarity. Feels painful at first, feels cold, feels wrong. But that's only because your nervous system was taught to care about their needs more than your own sanity. Many survivors also fear how the narcissist will cope after the breakup. But psychologists offer a dose of liberating truth. Vulnerable narcissists don't experience emotional devastation the way you do. They simply find another source of supply. Their recovery is transactional, not emotional. And while this sounds cold, it frees you from the responsibility they trained you to carry. Ultimately, healing comes from clarity. The clarity to see fragility used as manipulation. The clarity to understand that pity isn't love. The clarity to recognize that confusion doesn't equal connection. And the clarity to reclaim your emotional life from someone who taught you to feel responsible for their storms. If you've lived through this, you're not alone, and you're not broken. You were conditioned, and anything conditioned can be unlearned. There are healthier bonds waiting for you. Ones without chaos, without double narratives, without emotional traps disguised as tenderness. You deserve relationships where vulnerability is real, where compassion isn't weaponized, where apologies aren't tactics, and where love feels like safety, not confusion. And when you finally reach that place, when your nervous system calms and clarity replaces chaos, you'll realize something deeply empowering. You were never too kind. You were never too giving. You were simply someone with a good heart who encountered someone who mistook empathy for weakness. But your empathy is your strength, and it's the one thing they will never take from you again.